Good morning, students. In today's class, we'll discuss the magnetic materials. In the last class, we have seen that the third unit, right? We just started the end. We have just started fourth unit, and we have end the third unit. So in today's class, we just discuss about the what you can say. See, in today's class, we'll discuss about magnetic materials. Okay, so when I say magnetic materials, we are having aware of the fact that what is actually magnetism. So in the last class we just discussed what is actually magnetism, the material which is exhibiting the property of attraction. So we just say that is called magnetic materials. Now, depending upon certain properties, these magnetic materials have been classified into different categories. Now, what are the different categories? The first magnetic material that we are going to learn in today's class, and how this material is said to be diamagnetic material because of its properties. And we just see that in the last class we discussed about susceptibility, permeability, and also the dipole. So dipole is nothing but in a given bar magnet, right? So any magnet which has two poles, right, north and south pole. So two poles which are separated by some finite distance, we say that that is said to be a dipole. So diamagnetic material, why diamagnetic material is said to be diamagnetic material? We just see to it that these are the important properties which can be the fact that they are considered to be diamagnetic materials. So in the diamagnetic materials, you don't find any permanent dipole or magnetic moment is present. So the whenever a bar magnet is placed in and around the external magnetic field, so what will happen is that the magnetic moments are induced in it. So this induced magnetic moment is always in the, it will be in the opposite direction to the applied field. So magnetic induction in the specimen or the material, whichever we are taking into consideration, that will be slightly decreasing. Now, see, magnetic susceptibility value will be very small and negative, since we are aware of the fact that there will be no permanent dipole moments. So that is the reason that the magnetic susceptibility value is very small, and it will be negative. And the magnetic lines of force repulse, right? Uh, in the case of the diamagnetic materials, so we'll just, if this is the case for a given magnetic material, it is said to be the diamagnetic material. Now, so these are the important properties that come under the category of diamagnetic material. And how this diamagnetic materials is it dependent on the temperature, or it is independent of temperature? So diamagnetic susceptibility, you find that it will not affect the effect of temperature will not be taken into consideration. Why? Because the diamagnetic susceptibility is independent of the temperature. And the also this is diamagnetic susceptibility does not depend upon the applied magnetic field strength. So the relative permeability value is also very much less than 1. See the examples, you'll find that diamagnetic, which materials are said to be diamagnetic materials. So that are bismuth, zinc, gold, and so on. And also these diamagnetic materials will be used as superconducting materials. The superconducting elements will be coming under the category of the diamagnetic material. So here, so see here, we just started our today's topic with the diamagnetic material. So why we said to be, why a given magnetic material is said to be diamagnetic material? Because if in a given material you don't find that magnetic moment is present, and if even if you give some magnetic external magnetic field to the magnetic material, so what will happen is that it will have the effect of the external magnetic field will induce the magnetism in it, but this induction will be very much less than, and the approximate value, see, so susceptibility value is very small, and it will be negative. And the important property of this diamagnetic material, which will be considered as the repulsion of the magnetic lines of force, due to which they are used as the in the superconducting elements, right? For superconducting applications, in the later part, chapter 2, we'll just discuss about the superconductors. So in the superconducting element, due to this expulsion of magnetic lines of force, these diamagnetic materials are used in the superconducting materials. Now, the diamagnetic susceptibility is it depending upon the temperature? We found that they are nothing to do, the effect of the temperature is nothing to do, nothing to affect the diamagnetic properties or diamagnetic susceptibility. So the diamagnetic susceptibility is independent of the temperature and the applied magnetic field. You can just refer the concepts of the susceptibility and the permeability. Just in the last class, we just started with the diamagnetic susceptibility and permeability. Susceptibility, as I told you, that is the capability of the medium to get magnetized, and the permeability is the amount of accepting the lines of magnetic lines of force to a given material. So that is what actually susceptibility and the permeability value, permeability definitions. So examples of diamagnetic materials are nothing but they are zinc, gold, and so on. Alkali earth metals will also come under the category of diamagnetic materials. And as I said you that the property, a special property of magnetic diamagnetic material is expulsion of the magnetic lines of force, due to which it has been used in the superconducting uh, applications. Now, when we go to the paramagnetic materials, see why I'm going very right. A bit fast. Why? Because you just studied this thing in the intermediate also, right? So in the we are just brushing up the topics what you actually studied in the paramagnetic magnetic materials classification. These classification already are having aware about the dia, para, ferro, antiferro, and ferri. So here also we are starting our chapter with these properties. So paramagnetic materials are what are the special properties that the paramagnetic materials are having? They possess the permanent dipole moments, dipoles. So in the absence of the external magnetic field, all the dipoles are randomly oriented, and the net magnetic moment is zero. So in the absence of the external magnetic field, all the dipoles are randomly oriented, and the net magnetic moment is zero. This is very, very, very important. So the magnetic moment, if you don't apply an external magnetic field to this paramagnetic material, the net magnetic moment will be equal to zero. So in the presence of magnetic field, the materials gets feebly magnetized. So what we are doing is that we are applying an external magnetic field to the magnetic material, and if it is happening that it is getting magnetized when compared with the diamagnetic material, it will be a bit more. So this will come under the category of paramagnetic material. So it will allow the magnetic lines. This is very, very important. See, in the case of diamagnetic material, the magnetic lines of force are not allowed. Here you will find that this magnetic material will allows the magnetic lines of force to pass through it. So the orientation of the magnetic dipoles, which completely depends upon the temperature and the applied field. This is also important. In the case of diamagnetic material, the susceptibility value is small and negative, and here the susceptibility value for the paramagnetic material is small and it is positive. You can just see this schematic view of this magnetic dipoles. The susceptibility is independent of applied magnetic field, and it will depends upon the temperature. This is very, very important. Why? Because in the diamagnetic material, it is independent of temperature, and here the susceptibility value is depending upon the temperature. And how it is dependent, you can just see this is dependency. The susceptibility is proportional to 1 by T. If I remove that proportionality, is equal to will come, so susceptibility is equal to C by T, where C is the Curie constant and capital T is the temperature. Here C is Curie constant, and here you'll find that this is the magnetic moments of the given magnetic materials. They are randomly oriented, and that is what we are saying, that this indicates the spin alignment. The spin alignment in the case of paramagnetic material is random. So the magnetic dipoles, they do not interact with each other. So there is a presence of magnetic dipoles, but they are not interacting with each other. and due to which they are used in the lasers, and also the paramagnetic property of the oxygen is used in NMR technique for medical diagnosis. So this is a few applications. See, in the why what we have done in the diamagnetic materials are used in superconducting applications. And what is the use of paramagnetic material? Why we should study? Because they are used in lasers, and also for medical purpose NMR technique for diagnosis of for medical diagnosis we'll use the paramagnetic materials, right? So examples you can just see, that is alkali metals. In the case of diamagnetic metal, there are alkali earth metals. Here you'll find that alkali metals, and also aluminum, platinum, manganese, etc. are the examples of the paramagnetic material. Now, this is important property. When we just compare dia and para, you'll find that there are two important differences. One difference is that the susceptibility value is independent of the temperature. In the case of the diamagnetic material, here the susceptibility value is completely dependent, and you can see that they are inversely proportional to the temperature. And also the magnetic lines of force, in the case of diamagnetic material, find that the magnetic lines of force are expelled, and it will not go it will not travel inside the magnet, but it will expel outside the the magnetic lines of force are expelled out the magnet. So in the case of paramagnetic material, so there will be transfer of magnetic lines of force inside the magnet. So that is what the basic difference, right? And due to this difference, they are considered to be the dia and the paramagnetic material. This is a basic two important differences of classification of the dia and paramagnetic material. And now we just move to the our very important topic, that is ferromagnetic material. So when we talk about ferromagnetic material, what are the different properties? You'll find that so they possess a net magnetic moment. They possess spontaneous. When I say spontaneous magnetization, it means that so the magnetic property will be shown by the ferromagnetic material in the absence of external magnetic field. You are known to the fact that for each and every, either it may be dia, para, we are applying an external magnetic field. In the ferromagnetic material also, we are applying the external magnetic field. So in these three cases also, we are applying the uh, external magnetic field. So whenever you are applying an external magnetic field, definitely you'll have a less effect in the case of less induction of magnetism will be there in the case of diamagnetic material, and feebly there will be somewhat more when compared with the dia. You'll find that the induction of magnetism will be slightly more when compared with the dia in paramagnetic material. And in ferromagnetic material, even in the absence of magnetic field, it will show some magnetic properties. So that magnetism shown by the magnetic material in the absence of external magnetic field, we just say that is called, that will come under the category of the ferromagnetic material. Now, so see what they will strongly attracts the magnetic line. You can just see when it is placed in a magnetic field. So the magnetic materials they will strongly attract the magnetic lines of force, and you can just see the spin they are exactly aligned parallel and in a particular direction. So all the spins are aligned in the same parallel and the same direction. The susceptibility value is very large, and it is positive. So when we just consider the diamagnetic material, the susceptibility value is small and negative. For paramagnetic material, the susceptibility value is somewhat more when compared with dia, and it is positive. Here susceptibility value for ferromagnetic material, it is large and positive, and that susceptibility value is given by eta is equal to C by T minus theta, where C is the Curie constant and theta is Curie temperature. So when the temperature is greater than the Curie temperature, then the material is getting converted into paramagnetic material. So if this temperature is greater than the Curie temperature, if the temperature T is greater than small theta, so then what will happen is that the ferromagnetic material will be now act as a paramagnetic material, and they possess a special property of hysteresis. Hysteresis plays a very vital role in understanding the different applications of the ferromagnetic material, and then definitely we'll discuss that in the later section. So they possess the property of hysteresis. Material gets divided into small regions, and these materials, when they're divided into small regions, they are called domains. So examples of the materials that come under the category of the ferromagnetic material is so it will come the ferromagnetic materials examples are iron, copper, nickel. uh, so this will come under in the category of the ferromagnetic material. So when we just compare the three things here, uh, diamagnetic material, ferromagnetic material, and the what you can say, the ferromagnetic material, dia, para, and ferro, you'll find that there is a difference between the there is a difference between the susceptibility value. One is independent of the temperature, and another is the dependent on the temperature, inversely dependent. And the susceptibility value for this, you'll find that eta is equal to C by T minus capital T minus theta. Now, so when we go for antiferromagnetic material, see, again, this ferromagnetic material, depending upon the spin, they have been classified into antiferromagnetic materials. So here, depending upon the spin alignment, these uh, the materials have been considered to be in the alignment of spin. Here found to be, you can just see, we have just seen in the previous slide, you can just see this is the case. This is the case for the ferromagnetic material. The spin is exactly in a particular direction. You can find that the spin of the magnetic moments are in a particular direction. Here you'll find that the spin is anti-parallel. The spin alignment is in anti-parallel manner. The net magnetic moment here, you'll find that it will be 0. See, this is plus half and minus half. Then definitely this will get cancelled out. So the ferromagnetic material have a anti-ferromagnetic material have a susceptibility, have small value, and it will be positive. The susceptibility value is related with Curie temperature and the temperature T, right? C is the Curie constant. So eta is equal to C by T plus theta. Initially, the susceptibility increases as you increase the temperature, and a particular temperature, we call that as Néel temperature, the susceptibility value decreases with respect to the temperature. So here you'll find that at a Néel temperature, this is the name of the scientist. So that particular temperature, you'll find that susceptibility is the maximum. Examples of the antiferromagnetic materials are iron oxide, manganese oxide, right? And so on, and the salts which come under the category of transition elements, right? So here antiferromagnetic materials, very simple thing that you need to remember, that when we compare with the ferromagnetic material, only you'll find a basic difference, right? So a very wide difference. You'll find that alignment of these magnetic movements are somewhat different when we compare with the ferromagnetic material. So they are exactly parallel in the case of ferromagnetic material, and here you'll find that the spin alignment is completely different, right? It is going up and this is going downwards, and this is getting cancelled. So that we'll call that the net magnetic moment is found to be 0. So the susceptibility value is found to be C by T plus theta. Now, the ferrimagnetic material, a special type of again, depending upon the spin, same, you can just see the diagram also. Depending upon the spin, the diagram, the special type of antiferro magnetic material, the spin alignment is anti-parallel, but you can just see that the magnitude of this spin is somewhat different. So they possess a finite magnetic moment, and also these materials which are exhibiting this kind of spin are said to be ferrites, and susceptibility value is very much large and positive. The examples of these ferrimagnetic materials are ferrous ferrite, nickel ferrite, and so on. So here, in this particular classification of material, one thing that you need to understand, that depending upon the spin alignments of the ferromagnetic materials, again, due to the spin, they have been classified into antiferro and ferrimagnetic material. So in the antiferro, you'll find that the spin is anti-parallel to, you can just see this. I'm talking about the spin, right? This is very, very important. And susceptibility value also, it is C by T plus theta. Now, ferrimagnetic material, the magnitude is somewhat different. And here, domain theory, this is what actually we are trying to understand in the classification of the magnetic properties of the materials. So now, we just go to the domain theory of ferromagnetic material. So as you are aware of the fact that why we are giving more importance to the ferromagnetic material, the ferromagnetic materials are strongly magnetized material, and they will be magnetized in the direction of the applied external field, and they are possessing the spontaneous magnetization. Just now we said that the spontaneous magnetization is nothing but the magnetization possessed by the given material in the absence of the external magnetic field. Now, what is this domain theory? See, domain theory, because of its vast application, right, in the manufacturing sector, or the you can say production sector, and also in the computer science, also in electronic devices. So in particularly, the ferromagnetic materials are having wide applications, right, industrially, and also in the different electronic devices. So that is the reason that we need to understand more clearly, or more elaborately, the what is actually the character of the ferromagnetic material. So it is having we just say that is called domain theory. So what is actually domain is all about? In a ferromagnetic material, you find this. This is the area, small region, where you will find that this magnetic movements, magnetic dipoles, right? They are randomly oriented. You can just see this. They are randomly oriented, and this picture is a microscopic view of the magnetic movements of the, what you can say, the magnetic moments or the magnetic dipoles which are existing inside the ferromagnetic material. So here they are randomly oriented. So this is what we say that photomicrographs of the iron element, right? We have just taken the iron element, and what is happening is that whenever you are applying the external field, so they are what they are doing is that, see, you can just see this randomly oriented. Here you don't find any magnetic field, external magnetic field, magnetizing field. We say that is called magnetizing field. So magnetizing field, if the magnetizing external magnetizing field is zero, you'll find this is the case for the what you can say domain structure. So if we are applying the magnetizing force to certain extent, so this is the magnetic domains, right? You can find the magnetic dipoles or magnetic movements. You'll find this is the case when you apply the magnetizing force, or I say that magnetizing force is external magnetic field, which is applied. A small external magnetic field is applied. So what will happen? The domains will domains are nothing but, as I earlier told you, domains are nothing but the small region in which the magnetic movements are oriented in a particular direction. So the domains are nothing but a small region or a small area in which you'll find that the magnetic dipoles or magnetic movements are oriented in a particular dimension. So domains form a reason in ferro and ferrimag. They are not exactly random structure. What is happening when I just increase this magnetizing field more? See, you can just see this is when you apply the magnetizing field, external magnetic field. This is we are just right. You can just see this when you apply the external magnetic field more. So this is the case, right? Now this is the case, right? Now this is the case, right? So this is the case for the magnetic movement. This particular direction, you'll find that the magnetic domains are in a particular direction. So the materials that retain the magnetization in the zero electric field, we just say that is called quantum mechanical exchange interaction of the, you can just say this is called quantum mechanical interaction or exchange interaction. So this will be there in the iron material and cobalt material. So this is the magnetization which is exhibited by ferromagnetic material. So this is the we have just taken the case of iron, and it is observed that in the a see this is they are the spins, the spin alignment of this magnetic material is in a particular direction. So you see, just now I told you the ferromagnetic materials tend to form magnetic domains, right? Each domain is magnet. See, you say I say that a small region domains. I already told you that the small region or area in which they are aligned in a particular direction. Each domain is magnetized in a different. This is one domain, and this is a different domain, and this is different domain. They are see the spin is aligned in this particular direction. Here you'll find that this spin is aligned in the particular direction. So here in this particular areas, the spin alignment will be different, right? So in this particular fashion, we just say that the domain structure minimize the energy, right? So the magnetic domains, when you apply the field, the structure or domain structure will be changing. When the domains with the magnetization direction of the field grow, so here as I increase the magnetizing field, what is the meaning of magnetizing field? As I increase the external magnetic field, so what is happening is that this area is also growing, and the other small regions are trying to shrink, right? Now this is what we can say that is called, see, you can see this is a block wall. So this is a bit high, what you can say, a very high range. You need not to go for this. So now here we just say that very strong field is applied to a ferromagnetic material. So you'll find only this particular a single domain will be found. This is called saturation point. Now this is what we have what we are trying to do in the magnetic domain theory of magnetism. We are not going for Bloch's wall and so on. It a bit a different one. We are not going in that depth here. So now here we just we just try to start this hysteresis curve. Just now I told you that hysteresis is shown by a ferromagnetic material. What is meant by this hysteresis? And we'll see what are the applications of it. So hysteresis is nothing but lagging or retarding of an effect behind the cause of the effect, lagging of magnetizing field, right? So that is called actually magnetizing field. Is known as the lagging of magnetizing field. We just say that is called hysteresis. So the lagging of magnetization, we just say that is called hysteresis. Again, I'm telling you, you need not to get any confusion, right? Lagging, what is that lagging means here, or retarding of an effect? I will show you with the diagram, right? A schematic diagram. Now here you'll find that the magnetic B here indicates the magnetic induction field, which is causing the effect that is called the magnetizing field H, right? And that is the reason that, see, here we will say that induced magnetic field and with respect to the applied magnetic field. So induced magnetic field is B and the applied magnetic field is H. So we just call that as BH curve. So hysteresis in magnetic material means lagging of magnetic induction or magnetization behind the magnetizing field. Here you can just remember that the magnetic induction is behind the external magnetic field. Whenever you are talking about dia, para, and ferro, you are applying external magnetic field. So that external magnetic field we are just considered it to be H here, and the induction of magnetic induction is considered to be here B or M. So the lagging of these induced magnetism behind the applied magnetism or magnetic field, we just call that as hysteresis curve. It look like in this particular fashion. So this particular thing, first of all, one should know this important parameter. So here we just we try to, what we do is that in today's class we just try to stop here. Why? Because it's a theoretical concept. So theoretical concepts is we should take in a small span of time. So again, the hysteresis and different classification and exchange theory. So this will again discuss in our next class. In the next class, we'll deal with the different hysteresis curve in detail. We'll study about the hysteresis curve. In today's class, we just started our topic of the classification of materials, and we just discussed about diamagnetic material. There are some properties of diamagnetic material, paramagnetic material, their properties, and also we discuss about the ferromagnetic materials, right? And also we discuss about anti-ferromagnetic material and so on. So here we discuss about magnetic material and a special concept of domain theory of ferromagnetic material due to the presence of spontaneous magnetization. We just studied about domain theory of ferromagnetic material. So that definitely will try to complete that in the next class, the hysteresis curve. So till now, if you have any problem with the domain theory of ferromagnetic material or what is domain, uh, please let me know through WhatsApp, right? And if you have any problem, uh, please try to um, let us know the problem, actual problem you are facing if you are not able to understand anything, right? Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your patience. So we just stop our today's class and